Hello everybody, this is Graeme Anderson and today I'm going to be looking at Botanik. Now this is a two-player only game about building pipes and growing food. The theme is about two rival teams trying to develop a new plan to save a dying world through kinds of mechanically generated edibles or something like that. I know the theme sounds pretty out there, but the mechanism of the game is pretty down to earth. On your turn, you're going to take a tile and either place it on your side of the board or place it in the center stack, because you can only add tiles to your network when they're forced off the main board. So I'm often on the lookout for really good two-player games, so I was happy to get this one to the table. So did this blossom into a great game, or did it just not sprout at all? Let's get it to the table, see how it's played, and then we'll come back for my final thoughts on Botanik. So this is Botanik set up. You have the registry board with 5 columns in between both players, and the tiles are shuffled and placed off to one side. There are 65 tiles, 5 colors, and each color has 7 different types. Each player starts with a source tile in front of them, and you'll place 5 face-up tiles on the registry board. The first player is given the mecha-pawn. The game is played over multiple rounds until all the tiles have been played. At the start of each round, the player with the mecha-pawn will place 3 tiles face-up in the arrival zone. Then players, starting with the mecha-pawn player, will take a tile and place it. When all 3 tiles are gone, the mecha-pawn goes to the other player and the round starts again. On a player's turn, they must take 1 tile from the arrival zone and either place it on your side of the registry board or placed on a central pile. Then it will be the next player's turn. To place a tile on your side of the registry board, it must be placed on one of your empty squares and it must match either the color and/or type of the tile that is currently on top of the central pile that it is placed next to. You will never take a tile from the arrival zone and place it directly into your machine network. Now the other option when you take a tile from the arrival zone is to place it on a central pile. There are no restrictions on which pile you can place it on, but any tile on either side that no longer matches the type or color of this newly placed tile can now be placed in the respective player's machine network. So when you place a tile in the central tile, it will release 0, 1, or 2 tiles. Whenever a tile on your side is released this way, it must be immediately placed into your network. Now there are a few rules when placing. The new tile must be orthogonally adjacent to an already placed tile. Pipe edges must connect, and likewise pipeless edges must also connect. And finally, you can never completely close your system. That is, you must always have at least 1 free pipe in your machine network. If the tile that was released on your side is a mecha-botanist, they are not added to your machine network, but you must immediately swap it with any tile from the top of any central stack and use that as the just released tile. This placement of mecha-botanist tiles can also trigger other tiles to be released, so it could be that you now have 2 tiles to be placed, and you can place them in any order, but both must be placed before the next tile is selected from the arrival zone. The game continues until the last tile is placed. Then we go into final scoring. First, you remove all tiles whose pipes are not connected back to your source tile. You'll then score 1 victory point for each tile in the group of at least 3 adjacent tiles of the same color. And finally, you'll score 1 victory point for each flower in your network. Now for any vegetation or flowers, they will only score if they are connected via a pipe to a tile of the same color. Then, the player with the most points is the winner. Let's get back to see what I thought about Botanik. So, theme and components. The theme on this one is definitely out there and has almost no connection to the mechanisms of the game. I'm not sure whether any theme would have fit this game better, and it's definitely unusual and unique, but I think we're going to have to pass on the theme. So we go on to the components. First off, I was not a big fan of the art on the tiles and the box, but I will say that they were consistent. Everything kind of feels in the same universe. You know, the tiles, both front and back, the game board, the rules, the box, everything kind of feels as part of one big universe, which is nice. The components are a good quality, and the mecha-pawn is definitely nice and big and chunky. Now, the tiles do have little tiny markings on them to distinguish what color they are to help colorblind people. We have a tiny little dot here to say it's black and a tiny little X there to show that it is blue. I really wish they'd done a better job of helping differentiate the tiles, both for, colorblind people and even people that don't have a problem distinguishing colors. I mean, look at these 2 tiles. One of them is a vegetable, one of them is a plant. Which one's which? It's very hard to tell. You just have to go by the little symbol on the pot here. So we go on to the gameplay. As you saw from the walkthrough, the game is extremely easy to learn. You're up and playing the game in just a few minutes, which is great. The game also plays fast, 20 to 30 minutes to play the game, and it has an interesting mechanism for releasing tiles on the player side of the board. It all sounds good. But, and this is my major issue with the game, it ends up being very obvious what to do on your turn. Now, I've played this multiple times, and each time my opponent and I kind of always made sure that we were not fighting over the same tiles. We seem to automatically split the tile colors up. You get 2, I get 2 colors, and we use the 5th as a throwaway color. My turns always seem to be obvious, and I had very little to think about, I felt, for most of the game. Now, let's say I was collecting red and yellow tiles, and the 3 that were face up weren't my colors at all. I'm not going to put them on my side, so I'm just going to use them to release the tiles and make sure that I'm putting the most useful tile to my opponent on top of a stack. If they were tiles I needed, I made sure I placed them on my side of the board. I'm not sure where the decision point is. Very rarely did I have no place to put my tiles, and I can hardly ever force my opponent to take a tile that they weren't ready for or didn't have room for. I never had the feeling of strategic planning, of achieving an aha moment on my opponent. I never felt like I had a master plan that was going to pay off. Now, most of the games I played ended up by the winner winning by just a few points. We always seem to be able to build 2 large networks of the same color. The game always uses all the 65 tiles, so you always know what tiles and what colors are possible, and you're going to see all the tiles. There were no negative points in the game, so there's no penalty for you if on the off chance you were forced to take a tile that didn't fit into your network just to place it in a position that would be removed at the end of the game. So why not introduce negative points into the game? There's also no objective, secret or public. I just built my network with an eye in getting a large connected color, and to get flowers. Either one of these, negative points or objectives, I think would make this game much more replayable and for me, much more enjoyable. So, would I recommend this one? No, I wouldn't. Although the game is very easy to learn and plays fast and is a very approachable game. I think the biggest highlight for me in the game was really that tile release mechanism, which was interesting. But in the end, the game just didn't work for me. I found it too simplistic and never really gave me decisions to be made. I wanted my choices to matter more than they actually did. I wanted to be fighting my opponent over pieces or force him to place a piece into the network that they would have to work around. I never felt that. I never felt any tension in my plays. I never felt that I was outsmarted or that I was able to pull something over my opponent. For most of my plays, it just felt very obvious as what I should do next, and that was, for me, the biggest downfall of this game. So I'm going to give this game a 5 out of 10. The game became a very one-note game, and that note was just not interesting enough for me. But that's it. Until next time, thanks for watching.